want to talk about a topic that I love to talk about here on All Rights Reserved, and that is the topic of restorative justice. I usually talk about it from the standpoint of housing, but tonight I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of criminal justice and criminal justice reform. A lot of us believe that that is still something that's so needed in this country. Every time we hear a story of what looks like police violence or police brutality, you know, we get upset, we get frustrated. We want to know, like, when will this stop? When will they see and value our lives? They, meaning like law enforcement, the ones that are being accused of using police brutality. When will they see our lives as lives that matter? And that's what the whole chant of Black Lives Matter was about. Even though there was this counter attack or counter narrative, all lives matter. We do know that all lives matter. But what we were saying is that all lives matter, which means Black Lives Matter. So what policies do we need to put in place so that we can repair the harm? Well, at the end of last week, the state of Missouri executed a 55-year-old Black man named Marcellus Williams. We believe an innocent man may have more than likely been executed, despite the overwhelming evidence in his case that was presented in multiple appeals that his attorneys did. It alleged bias by the jury, a bias not by the jury, but in jury selection, right? There was bias, and that there was contamination of key evidence before the trial, right? But despite all this conflicting evidence, and also there was a DNA test too, the DNA evidence at the scene of the crime did not link him to the scene of the crime, I should say. But despite all this, the Missouri governor, Mike Parson, the Missouri Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court refused to grant a stay of execution. So they could have done something else because of the conflicted evidence. They could have just said, okay, well, we'll remove the, death penalty, but he will remain in prison. They did not have to go as far as continuing with his execution. But a lot of folks, and me too, after reading what happened, we believe that this decision underscores deep flaws, right, in our overall justice system, as critical issues in this case, again, were overlooked, leading to a tragic and irreversible outcome. It was state-sanctioned murder, in some people's opinion. So our hearts go out to the family of Marcellus Williams during this difficult time. I mean, we stand in solidarity with them, and we are committed. I am, and we all should be committed, regardless of our roles in society. We all should be committed to pursuing justice and accountability in the face of this profound injustice. I had an opportunity to write a statement for an organization that I represent, a client of mine, the North Carolina Black Alliance. The statement that I wrote is that America is a country that remains in the grip of various unjust systems, especially a criminal justice system that produces mass incarceration. We know the root causes of wrongful convictions and unjust sentences are systemic racism and inequities in this country. This leads to deep racial disparities remaining around who is incarcerated and who is executed in this country. There's data that says around 56% of the 575 DNA exonerations in the United States were due to mistaken eyewitness identification. That's a high margin of error, y'all. Further, in Mr. Williams' case, the prosecutor, Keith Larner, removed 6 of 7 Black prospective jurors. He removed 6 of 7 Black prospective jurors. So in the end, there was just 1 Black juror and 11 white jurors who judged Mr. Williams' case, right? They judged his case. So yet to be judged by a fair and impartial jury of 1 peers is a bedrock principle of the American criminal justice system. It's grounded in the 6th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So how did Mr. Williams receive a fair judgment from his peers? His peers, right? When there was only 1 juror who has lived the Black experience in America, or who was even from his racial community. There is also a lack of diversity, y'all, among judges, period. especially those who sit on high state courts and on our various federal courts, and as we know, on our U.S. Supreme Court. It's not far-fetched for us to believe in the fact that someone could be wrongfully convicted. So I will say today and every day forward, we cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the history of our flawed and often unjust criminal justice system, right? That has historically discriminated against Black people and non-white racial groups in America. So wanted to lift that case. Feel free to Google the gentleman I'm talking about. Say his name, Marcellus Williams. We believe that he was wrongfully executed, guys.